I admire the fact that you will fight for your homeland.
Я захоплююсь тим, що ви боретеся за свою батьківщину.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
Our fight is not with the Russian people, but with Putin.
Ми боремося не з російським народом, але з Путіним.
Our promise to you is to take your cause to Washington.
Наша обіцянка – це те, що ми вашу боротьбу доведемо до Вашингтона.
Inform the American people of your bravery.
Проінформуємо американський народ про вашу відважність.
And make the case against Putin to the world.
І покажемо про докази проти Путіна усьому світу.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
And we have succeeded not because of equipment, but because of your courage.
Ви успішні не через обладнання, але через вашу відважність.
So I thank you, and the world is watching, and the world is watching because we cannot allow Vladimir Putin to succeed here, because if he succeeds here, he will succeed in other countries.
Я вам дуже дякую. І весь світ за цим слідкує. І весь світ за цим слідкує, тому що ми не можемо дозволити Володимиру Путіну тут перемогти. Адже якщо він тут переможе, він зможе це зробити і в інших країнах. Дякую.
There he is, the boss dog. We're out getting his exercise today. It's a windy day, and I couldn't get the dead cat because my hands don't work on the mic. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. March 5th, 2025. Let's get into it. Of course, the big news was the president's speech last night. And we're going to get into a reading because I want to get you the rest of the story. Because, you know, if you watch the talking heads on TV, you're just going to see that they're just going to talk about what they saw on the main floor and everything. But there was a person who put up an excellent post about what took place in the gallery. And that's a more interesting story to me than anything else. But I did, you know, they said that 76% of the people appreciated that or approved of the speech. But I want to ask you the question nobody's asking, who's the 24% that didn't? I mean, I know obviously they're Democrats, but I mean, you got to be out of your mind not to have liked that speech. It's the only time I've ever watched in my lifetime an entire speech where I agreed with everything. And of course the Democrats were unhinged, you know. Everything, you know, the Trump derangement syndrome keeps going. I got another post I want to read to you that I found very interesting. I don't know if it's true, but they were saying that, you know, not only were the Democrats robbing U.S. aid or your taxpayer dollars from that program, which Trump pointed out in his speech, there's a post saying that they also robbed, sorry, my nose is running a little bit cold out here, the Medicare and Medicaid. And I'm going to read that post to you along with the what happened in the gallery here in just a few. But I just wanted to hit on a couple of things because I'm going to tell you what. And then, of course, the only time the Democrats applauded was when Trump pointed out we sent Ukraine $350 billion. I mean, who in their right mind applauds that? or thinks that's a good idea. They're the biggest warmongers in the world. You got a Democrat neighbor, they are batshit crazy, man. I'm going to tell you what, you think, oh no, that's, those just the elites in Washington, D.C. are crazy. No, all Democrats are crazy. All Democrats. No way you could be against that speech. No way you're approving of the war in Ukraine. Speaking of the war, Zalensky sent Trump a letter that he brought out in his speech saying that they're going to go with the mineral rights deal. But then the rest of the story, and
Нам відомо, що росіяни не змінили своїх позицій та вимог щодо України. Вони будуть вимагати скорочення нашої армії, будуть хотіти юридичну відмову від наших територій, також суттєвої політичної деформації України з послабленням української Конституції. І скажу, що насправді, поки ми всі в Україні будемо стояти разом і міцно, поки ми тут, ні в кого це не вийде. Мир буде достойним. Слава Україні!
oh, by the way, I wanted to talk about that video up front. That was John McCain. And I wanted to say that we all make mistakes. I voted for John McCain. He was a warmonger and asshole. God rest him. I mean, he's dead now, but that was a huge mistake on my part to vote for him. I don't remember who ran against him. I can't remember. It might have been, wasn't that Obama, I think? Anyway, so we all make mistakes. That's all that I wanted to say. And I lost my train of thought of what I was talking about. All right, well, let's get into the reading part of the video so that you've got to hear this. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, I thought of a couple more things I wanted to talk about. I put up a post. I wanted you can read it on X, but if you go back, I was pointing out that in World War II, most of the casualties took place towards the end of the war in Germany. And so I said that, now that they are talking about peace, that the number of casualties in Ukraine, I'm expecting to go nuclear here in the next 3 weeks. And by the way, you're not going to have peace in Ukraine right away. It's probably going to take a month or two, unless the Ukrainian army completely folds up. But I saw on the military summary channel that they actually won a battle here recently. The first time I've seen them take back some territory. Now, probably temporary in quite some time, but so they're still fighting. Another thing that upset me was Trump put out a post that Hamas says to release all the hostages, or he's going to give Israel everything they need to finish the job. And by finish the job, that means exterminate the remainder of the Palestinians, in my opinion. So, or it could even mean American boots on the ground. Maybe you'll send in just special forces, which, that means a lot of them are going to get killed. I don't know. That worries me because Douglas McGregor, he just put out a post and he said, look, if we're looking at regional war in the Middle East, I mean, if Israel starts dropping, 2,000-pound bombs again and bunker busting bombs to try to get down to the tunnels, I'm not sure that those Arab nations are going to put up with it this time around. And then of course, McGregor always points out that Turkey could get involved. And anyway, we'll see what happens. That didn't sound like a good idea. The other one is, I'm not going to post it on this video because everybody's already put it up on YouTube, is that montage that the Democrats, I told you the Democrats are the Borg. They are the Borg. It's a hive mind. They have no free will or anything else. They just do whatever the party tells them to do. And so anyway, it was funny as hell because it was 22 senators and they all were saying the same damn thing. And so people made fun of it. It's all over X right now. That was a cute montage, but I just wanted to talk about the points they were making in the montage. The first one is the price of eggs. You understand that's because the Democrats killed, I don't know, like 100 million chickens, saying it was the bird flu. I think it was intentional to try to starve Americans personally, because Democrats hate you and me, and they hate Americans. In fact, they're just haters all around, aren't they? I mean, they hate everything, and they certainly hate Donald Trump. That's for damn sure. Oh my God! I guess if any of them ever watched one of my videos, they probably I would get some hate somewhere along the way. But anyway, so that was the first point. The second point that the Democrats were saying is that inflation. Well, Biden caused all the inflation in the last 4 years. I mean, you understand that. It's going to take Trump a year, at least, to get things under control. So yeah, your prices are going to continue to go up. And that's not Trump's fault. It's what he inherited from the damn Democrats. And so for them, so that's their big talking point now. Oh, the prices are going up. The Trump doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know, what's the dog doing here? Come on, boo. Anyway, so that was the second point. And I don't know, I guess the third, I think I forgot to tell you it. So anyway, Zalensky, after writing that letter, this was the other point. He put out a video, and he basically said, nah, we want to keep fighting, more or less. So I don't know how much credence you can put in that letter. It seems like the Ukrainians just want to fight it out. So the dying's going to continue. All right, we're going to get to the reading part of the video right now. All right, let's get into the reading portion of the video. So this is Mila Joy, and it says, Democrats say Trump is killing Medicaid. So I thought I'd remind everyone of what Biden did. Hold on to your hats, because the Democrats have been raiding Medicare like it's their personal piggy bank. They snatched $237 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act and funneled it right into their green energy obsession. That's just the appetizer. They already drained a colossal $800 billion from Medicare to prop up the Affordable Care Act. Add it up, and boom, $1 trillion swiped from Medicare. Talk about a trust-busting, jaw-dropping betrayal. So, if that's, I guess it's true. I mean, it hasn't been community noted. You want to associate with a Democrat? Not me. I don't want to be around them. I can't stand to be around them. This is clandestine. I'm surprised how many people were completely unaware that the CIA was openly sharing intelligence with Ukraine. Yeah, this is another story. Was Trump has cut off the intelligence spigot, supposedly. Now, I don't know if the CIA is going along with it. I mean, when you look at Pam Bondi and she couldn't get you the Epstein files, and there was a guy on Redacted yesterday, and he was going, look, it's called Sentinel. It's a computer system. The computer system, it's not just based in New York, it's also based in Washington, D.C. So the fact that she says that New York was holding up the Epstein files didn't make any sense. Yeah, I got off on a tangent. So anyway, but yeah, so we've cut off the intelligence to Ukraine, which means they're flying blind right now. Most of the country have no idea that Ukraine is a proxy of the United States. They use our money, weapons, equipment, training, intelligence, etc. The only thing that makes Ukraine army Ukrainian is that we're using Ukrainian bodies instead of American ones. That's it. Everything else in Ukraine military is US/NATO product. They had a lot of Soviet equipment also. I did want to point that out also. That's another reason why we armed up Ukraine, because you give them the NATO weapons, plus they had all the Soviet weapons. That was a very powerful army 3 years ago, man. I mean, I dare say they could have marched right through Europe and just taken all of Europe if they'd gone the other direction. Ukraine's army is an army that US/NATO built for fighting Russia indirectly. They are a pawn on a chessboard, and the US/NATO view them as dispensable. Yeah, when you see Lindsey Graham or who was the other one, they go over there and they say, you guys just keep fighting to the last Ukrainian. I mean, they're sick. They're sick people, man. I'm telling you, the Democrats are sick, and of course Lindsey Graham is too. He was right. Flashback to 2016 when corrupt politicians Graham, Kohlenberger, and we played that video up front. So okay, let's keep going here. So now we want to get into that was clandestine. This is the one I really wanted to read to you, because this is the one I found so interesting. As President Trump's speech last night, I was sitting right behind the Democrats in the gallery. I have a perfect bird's eye view of everything. This is Ethan Harum, MD. I don't know who this guy is, but he wrote it. This is a great thread. No doubt, very dramatic for all of those watching, but there was so much more that the cameras missed. Not only did the Dems not applaud or stand for the stories honoring the average Americans, but neither did their guests in the gallery. Even for the most heartwarming moments, most stayed seated, very few ever applauded. It was heartbreaking to see. During those moments, I could see entire rows of Democrats staring down at their phones. I was close enough to see what they were looking at. Most were texting and scrolling through social media feeds. The only moment during the speech that generated enthusiastic collective applause was when Trump mentioned spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. There were 5 or 6 Dems that immediately pulled out Ukrainian flags and started waving them. This was notable since, their applause was not meant to celebrate any result of that spending, i.e. a tangible victory in Ukraine or benefit to America, but was in response to the mention of the spending itself. Democrats love to spend your money, man, or spend us into debt. They're trying to destroy the United States. Don't tell me they're not. They hate the United States. They hate you and they hate me for sure. The fact that this was so natural and immediate was unnerving. It was the only thing that pulled their faces away from their phones. Not the celebration of life in our homeland, but the death of hundreds of thousands in a foreign one. And then it goes on, let's see. Beyond the applause, there were a few other notable observations. After Al Green, started yelling and shaking his cane at Trump, the first person security approached was not Green, but Nancy Pelosi, almost like she was the pit boss for the Democrat side. I could not tell if she was. I could tell she not pleased since, and he didn't write this very well. I didn't even see her turn her head towards the security guard. This would have required Pelosi to look towards her right side, which was the direction where Green was embarrassing himself in front of the country. Not really surprised by her reaction, since this would have compounded the collective sense of defeat on the Democrat side of the chamber. Let's see. While the cameras were focused on the characters on the chamber floor, they missed the ones in the gallery. Like a young woman, catty corner to my left, it looked like she was dressed in sweats and was fully passed out for the entire speech. It didn't seem like this was an act of protest or defiance, but that she was actually sleeping, working her way through multiple REM cycles. She even used the tight seating in the gallery to her benefit, relying on her neighbor's shoulders and arms to achieve the most comfortable position possible for an extended tiger snooze. At one point, I thought she was snoring. Unfortunately, I was too far away to obtain audible verification. I just thought this was a hell of a post. Then there was a young guy with a voluptuous shoulder-length mullet, a Lieutenant Dan SQ, military jacket and blue jeans. One of the guys sitting next to me said it was likely one of the Peter Thief's famous tech prodigies. Probably top 3 coolest people in the room, I imagine. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. All right. Then there was an entire row of mainstream media journalists, about a dozen or so, directly behind Trump in the gallery. What made this stand out was that they all had the same MacBook, which formed a wall of Apple logos. It was too symbolic for the current moment in American history. The irony was almost too much given to the viral video earlier that day, which showed over 20 Democrat senators reading the same script. We already talked about that. Using the same microphone, producing one of the most cringeworthy displays of shameless inauthenticity. Okay. But the most remarkable part of this all was the indescribable energy coming from the Republicans. It was truly a sight to see such an impressive group of people from every possible background and every political persuasion coalesce around a shared vision. One of the most important moments in American history, and I was able to be part of it. I will forever be grateful for Senator Hawley having me as a guest. That's yeah. And then I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Finally, we got through it. Sorry, I was having such a hard time reading that. Let's see if we got anything else going on. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. This is Megatron. Good. Breaking. After the U.S., Germany has also stopped the delivery of weapons to Ukraine. Not because it wants to, but because their weapons are at a critical level. German Defense Ministry, this is a quote, Germany has reached the limit of its ability to transfer weapons from its arsenals to Ukraine. So Ukraine's in for a bad time. And then we'll finish it off with the Babylon Bee. They always crack me up. Trump to address Congress in scuba gear to avoid drowning in liberal tears. We'll do one more, come on. Speaker Mike Johnson. The joint address to Congress is historic. Normally you would have a State of the Union and the president would come in about at the end of the first year of his term, but I invited him early because there's been so much to report. And then finish off the video with this video by Speaker Johnson. I know it's getting kind of dark. I hope you can see me. Or if you can't, that's probably even better. All right, man. Peace out. Stay free.
This joint address to Congress, Larry, is historic. I mean, normally you would have a State of the Union. The president would come in really on or about the end of the first year of his term. But I invited him this early because there is so much to report. President Trump is having an historic second term, and he's done so much in the less than 45 days that it would take him 3 hours to just go through all of the wins and all the victories and the things that he's achieved so far. So I hope the Democrats don't try to disrupt that, because the American people back home are applauding it, and we are here as well in the House Republican Conference.
I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, while we're on our way back, enjoying the dark here and the final walking of the Bulldog, I wanted to give you a little historical context. Let's talk about Pearl Harbor for just 1 second. You know that war with the Japanese, well, number one, a lot of people felt that FDR set that up, because it was very suspicious that all the carriers were out to sea when the Japanese did the surprise attack, or many people say it wasn't a surprise attack. They knew it was coming. They just let it happen so that FDR could drag us into World War II. But, speculation. I don't have any proof to that other than it is suspicious. But anyway, one of the things that happened in that battle was, and it's very weird, was the Japanese did not bomb the fuel depot. So they were saying that, because back then we didn't have nuclear aircraft carriers. They were saying that if the Japanese had hit that fuel depot at Pearl Harbor, that, we wouldn't have been able to get, we would have had to completely resupply that fuel depot, and our ships would have been stranded right there in Pearl Harbor, probably for a long period of time, giving the Japanese a lot more time to attack other targets. And so I never understood why they didn't hit the fuel depot. And the second one was, let's get to World War II, the Battle of the Bulge. That's another one. The Germans, it's been speculated that whole thing wasn't just like a last push by the Germans. It was supposedly, or some people have speculated, that because the Germans were running out of fuel. And so maybe they had intel where the Allies were storing the fuel. Okay, and so maybe that whole thing was about them getting the fuel, although I can't see how they would get it because the Allies probably would have just blown it up. But anyway, what was weird was, rather than, remember that big stand? Rather than just bypass those guys and go to the fuel depot, which I think was their target, they allowed themselves to get bogged down there. And then, of course, we know what happened. They were turned back. But they were very close to getting the fuel. Crazy, huh? Two crazy stories. A third one was, a lot of people don't, a Democrat, and Lyndon B. Johnson, you do know that we were brought into the Vietnam War on a false flag event. The whole thing was a lie, and so we were brought in there. And then, of course, that the Iraq War was a lie also, the war I fought in. with their said they were weapons of mass destruction. The other thing I forgot to tell you was, you know that McCain rigged the, I think, isn't he from Arizona? I believe that's where he's from, but he rigged the elections. And so that, you know, that's why he had no competition, and his family pretty much ruled, kind of like Bush rules Texas. You know, a lot of the Republicans in the Texas legislature are Bush Republicans. Sorry, dog's stopping here for a minute. So, but by rigging those elections, you know, now that when the Democrats, you know, finally got in control, they were able to just take that rigged election and just roll with it. So that's why Arizona goes Democrat, because those elections are so rigged. Just few little historical facts for you. I was just thinking about all that on the way back. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I just thought that, well, I guess it was because of that gallery. I just thought that was the rest of the story.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I appreciate you being here. It's great to be here. It's great to talk to some of the incredible people that we have, both at the local level, the Texas state level, and also, of course, our federal border patrol, who are doing so many good things to keep us safe. And I have some bad news and some good news. And the bad news is that because of what Joe Biden did at the southern border for 4 years, we had record increases in migrant crime, in fentanyl deaths, and in just floods and floods of people who shouldn't be in our country who came into the United States of America. We also have a number of ways in which the cartels became more advanced, better war fighters, because Joe Biden opened up the American southern border and allowed the cartels to turn it into their playground. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is, as President Trump said last night at the State of the Union, it turns out we didn't need new laws. We didn't need fancy legislation. We just needed a new president of the United States. And thank God that's exactly what we have. And I will say that the most heartening message that I take away from my visit here at the Texas border is the number of Border Patrol agents who have come up to me and said thank you, or said because of this, we've cut the number of border crossings from 1,500 a day to 30 a day. Or the people who have come up and said we've seen a reduction in 85% of the number of people who are dying at the American southern border. And every single day that we continue to keep this border safe, that means less migrant crime, that means less fentanyl coming into our communities, that means more safety and security for the people of the United States of America. And of course, we know the border problem, the border crisis under Biden's administration was a national crisis, but it acutely affected the communities right here. And I've already heard heartbreaking stories of people who are still picking up the pieces, local mayors who are still dealing with the budgetary consequences of what the Joe Biden administration allowed to happen at the American southern border. And that, too, is something that President Trump is going to help address, help fix, and help solve. Now, I wanted to bring Secretary Hegseth and Director Gabbard at DNI down here because, one, I obviously enjoy their company, and it's good to have them down here with me looking around today. But unfortunately, we know that because of what's happened, the border crisis has become a matter of national intelligence, and it's also become something that requires the Department of Defense to engage with. I was talking with Paul Perez earlier. The drone technology that the cartels are using requires, unfortunately, a military response and military support. So it was important for Secretary Hegseth to see what's going on, because we know that the millions and millions of people who were let in over the last 4 years, many of them are connected to foreign terrorists. It's important for our leader of national intelligence to get a sense of what's here on the ground. So before we take questions from the press, and all of us are willing to take questions, I want to give Secretary Hegseth and then Director Gabbard an opportunity to say a few words themselves.